After studying this module, you shall be able to understand the conceptual framework of industrial sickness, learn the legal concept of sickness, appreciate various reasons behind sickness, critically analyze the functioning of BIFR, a government agency to deal with industrial sickness, appreciation of the fact industrial sickness has emerged as a serious issue for industrial growth in view a slow process of state intervention and lack of an exit policy. We shall commence this module by studying the conceptual framework of industrial sickness. Market economy and sickness. If we accept market and competition to be natural commitants of each other, industrial sickness appears to be a concomitant of a market economy. Competitive forces cannot work without entry and exit taking place simultaneously. While lure of making supernormal profits leads to entry, loss must induce exit. It is inevitable that outdated technologies and products which can no longer serve a market must perish. This phenomenon has been conceptualized by Schumpeter in 1942 in terms of a very well-known term called creative destruction. Different concepts of sickness. However, one needs to appreciate that all sickness do not necessarily lead to death, and hence all sick enterprises do not need to exit from the market. Human sickness properly treated may restore the sufferers to the normal health, leading to his resumption of economic activity, preventing loss of output to the economy and consequent loss of income for him. The same should hold good for a sick enterprise, in particular for developing economies like ours, characterized by the existence of a vulnerable working population not protected by a social security scheme in face of unemployment. Clearly, while Schumpeter is talking about a notion of permanent sickness brought about natural operation of market forces in pursuit of efficiency and opposed to a notion of temporary sickness. On the other hand, every attempt should be made to revive a sick unit when it is possible, resorted to only when it is wholly unviable, that is, permanently sick. If such a wholly unviable unit is not allowed to die, we encounter two more kinds of sicknesses: primary and secondary sickness, as pointed out by Parcel in 1989. To quote, the subsidizing and continued production of marginal firms which would normally leave the industry, that is primary sickness, further depresses the prices and leads to losses, and subsidizing of a further set of firms, which is secondary sickness, which would have been profitable had the first set been allowed to leave. Change in technology and taste may lead to permanent sickness, leading to exit of the producing unit. But if reason lie elsewhere and the malaise is treated immediately, it is mild sickness. Thus, it may be important to distinguish between temporary and permanent sickness. Legal definition of sickness. Before proceeding, one now needs to provide the statutory definition of industrial sickness. According to Companies Second Amendment Act of 2002, sick industrial company means an industrial company which has 1. The accumulated losses in any financial year equal to 50% or more of its average net worth during 4 years immediately preceding such financial year, or second, fail to repay its debts within any 3 consecutive quarters on demand made in writing for its repayment by a creditor or creditors of such company. Let us now understand the causes leading to industrial sickness. A few things need to be remembered before making an attempt to understand the causes behind industrial sickness. Sickness is an organic process in the life of industrial units. The reason behind sickness may be found within the organic process, or it may lie elsewhere, having a significant bearing on the working of the firm. In fact, reasons behind sickness may include both internal and external reasons. Narayanan in 1994 pointed out that most of the causes are interlinked. These leads us to propose a concept of vicious circle of sickness. The cost overrun leads to diversion of funds, leading to inadequate working capital, leading to low capacity underutilization, poor sales, inability to pay dues including wages on time, leading to labor unrest, production becoming even lower, working capital becoming more scarce, and a vicious cycle of sickness sets in. An analysis of the cases finally disposed of by the BIFR up to December 31, 1991 led Narayanan to comment that even though one cause may be singled out as a major reason for the sickness of a particular unit, it should not be assumed that it is the sole cause. Further, in many cases, there are 2 or 3 major causes. However, in a general treatment like ours, we are forced to refer to different reasons as distinct reasons, each one capable of leading to sicknesses on its own. But our presentation will appear less mechanical if we are able to relate the discussion to the organic process of working of an enterprise. In an interesting study, Singh in 2011 distinguished internal and external reasons of sickness originating at different points over the life cycle of the firm. The merit of the study is that it differentiates among firms with sickness on the basis of both difference in time of origin of the reason behind sickness as well as the nature of the reasons leading to sickness. 2 kinds of reasons are distinguished in the literature, internal or external. The external factors usually affect all the units of the same industrial group simultaneously and are likely beyond the control of the management. On the other hand, the internal factors may affect a particular unit only and mostly are within the control of management. Singh also distinguishes among the three distinct scenarios: born sick, become sick and made sick. First is the enterprises born sick. It needs to be appreciated that sickness is not always a post-implementation feature. Some industrial projects are born sick from the very starting point itself. The reason include ill-conceived projects, planning without insights and poor appraisal, incorrect choice of location and product selection, inadequate market surveys, incorrect fixed investment. It is also interesting to note that intervention by the state in the form of entry of the government owned business units under social welfare scheme mostly come in this category. Startups also fails because of disarray within the founding teams, lack of proper vision in entrepreneurs and poor execution. Clearly, the reasons behind sickness appears to be internal. However, the reasons leading to enterprises born may be external as well. This is discovered in a survey of cases finally disposed of by the BIFR up to December 31, 1991, conducted by Narayanan in 2014. Second, enterprises becoming sick. Some industrial projects may develop sickness due to internal causes. In such a situation, sickness starts at the last stage of project implementation. This occurs as a result of poor management and deliberate diversion of funds. The reasons also include wrong recruitment and faulty management policies are responsible for this. It appears that these reasons leading to sickness of the firm relate to conduct of the firm itself. However, not all enterprises develop sickness due to their conduct. If they conduct themselves in the best interest of the shareholders and generate profit for them, new entrants may enter their business in search of supernormal profit and incumbent may face losses as a result. With innovative change in management and the style, the firm may survive with or without being taken over. Otherwise, more symptoms of sickness develop and the enterprises becomes permanently sick and ultimately exit the industry. Such a process of deterioration has been very aptly analyzed by Singh in 2011. However, recession and competition are common enough reasons behind industrial sickness and hence are not specifically attended to in a discussion of industrial sickness. Third, enterprises made sick. Here, sickness is imposed upon the business units due to external causes beyond the control of the management. They are mostly attributed to the environmental factors such as sudden changes in the government policies, technological changes and macro-political, social and economic problems. A few of the reasons are clubbed in an earlier section as originating from change in the basic conditions. After an analytical discussion of the reasons leading to sickness, we refer to an analysis of the cases finally disposed of by the BIFR up to December 31, 1991, conducted by Narayanan in 2014. The study divides major causes under 4 heads. First, time and cost overruns. This is the major cause in the new units, many of which are sick from the very beginning. According to Narayanan, cost and time overruns figure as a major cause of sickness in 69 of the 472 cases. This constitutes 14.62% of total cases surveyed. Time and cost overrun leads to sickness is of various kinds. They include a huge dependence on borrowed funds, carry interest from the moment of borrowal and reluctance to use one's own funds, procedural delays by various authorities in granting licenses as compared to the other countries, and infrastructural facilities leading to a delay in the commencement of commercial production. Reliance on imported machinery is another issue. There occur delays on the part of the foreign suppliers in sending the machinery as well as helping to install it. At times, a defective equipment is supplied as well. The state financial institutions, followed by all India financial institutions, delay in the sanction as well as release of funds. Some of the state financial institutions do not conduct proper appraisal to see whether the amounts asked for or sanctioned will be adequate to keep the unit going till commercial production at least is expected to start. The mismatch between the outflow of the funds from the firm to the lender in the form of the accrual of interest from day 1 and the inflow of the funds taking only after goods are produced and sold is not factored in by the lender. Second, government policy. This is the second major cause of industrial sickness, covering a little over 24% of the total cases, which may be divided into several subcategories. The most prominent category relates to delays. It includes delays in giving power connections, delays in the payments of subsidies, and so on. The second category relates to power cuts, power failures, tripling, etc. The third type, leading to the industrial sickness, relates to sudden ill-conceived changes in import or export policies, drastic changes in customs or excise duties, and so on. Another reason belonging to this category relates to the failure to provide infrastructural facilities in the backward areas. Third is the labor problems. As opposed to the popular notion, labor problems did not appear to be major cause in ushering of industrial sickness. It only covered 11% of the total cases surveyed by Narayanan. The study conducted by Narayanan observed that sometimes unrealistic demands are put forward to show militancy and wean away support from the rival unions. But it hastens to add that labor trouble is not a major cause of sickness, barring a few cases. Labor unrest plays a role in all cases, but this is not a cause, but a consequence of industrial sickness. When wage payments get delayed or are stopped altogether, when bonuses are not declared, labor tends to become restive, and this happened in almost all the companies which start becoming sick. A number of these cases relate to inter-union rivalry, while some relate to a wooden attitude on the part of the management. Although labor troubles as the sole reason behind industrial sickness is not widespread, they may be sporadic instances of collusion between management and trade union, leading to mutual gains at the cost of ordinary workers. Ganguly in 1989 provides a very interesting case study of aluminium manufacturing company where owners and unions colluded behind the back of the workers to liquidate a sick industrial unit, in the process contravening the Calcutta High Court's explicit directives, and argued that political economy aspect of industrial sickness should not lost sight of. Fourth, mismanagement of the enterprises. This constituted the most significant reason behind the industrial sickness, covering more than 50% of the cases surveyed by Narayanan in 1994. The first type of mismanagement includes cases of deliberate mismanagement such as siphoning away funds either to associate concerns or for the personal purposes, deliberate purchase of substandard or defective equipment, fraud on the banks and institutions, etc. The second category of mismanagement is that due to incompetence or neglect, such as failing to do a market survey before starting a project, not making sure of the source of the raw material, bad financial planning, deciding on an uneconomic size, and so on. The third category of mismanagement, the most prominent in some of the older industries, for example textile or jute, is the failure to move with the time, to modernize equipments, to update technology, etc. The fourth type of mismanagement has been that of diversion of working capital for expansion, for the acquisition of fixed assets, etc., not in line with the prudent business practice. Another type of mismanagement is that caused by the internal dimensions in the management. Whether the management is in the hands of one family or the 2 or 3 groups, that matters a lot. Ghosh in 1979 provides an interesting case study relating to mismanagement. There were certain measures taken up by the government. Let us study those measures. The Board for Industrial and Financial Reconstruction, that is BIFR, was established for the timely detection of industrial sickness and speedy determination of both preventive and remedial measures. The kind of viability envisaged here is that of a unit which can make its net worth positive and meet its liabilities within a reasonable time, given assistance in the shape of concessions and reliefs from the governments, banks, institutions and other creditors and laborers, and infusion of interest-free funds by the management. It is with this objective that the BIFR was set up, and its performance has been at just good despite various constraints under which it has been functioning. This brings us to an analysis of constraint faced by the BIFR and the delays caused by these constraints. One major problem is that the powers of the BIFR are purely persuasive and non-mandatory as far as governments, banks and institutions are concerned. while it does not appear feasible to give mandatory powers to the BIFR, creating of the new super institution is not desirable. Nevertheless, a new changes may be in order. These changes are intended to take care of delays occurring at different stages of revival of SIC units. The Reserve Bank of India issued guidelines to be observed by the banks in respect of SIC industries, but the banks take their own time to react despite the fact that the concessions and relief envisaged by the BIFR in a particular case are included within these guidelines. It is suggested in the literature by Narayanan in 1994 that in all cases where the reliefs, concessions and assistance sought from the banks are within the Reserve Bank guidelines, their acceptance should be automatic. The same principle should apply in the case of the institutions both at the state level and the all India ones, though the guidelines are not binding on them. It is only in cases where the draft scheme wants to go beyond the guidelines, which happens very rarely, that a longer period for discussion should be allowed. Though even here it is necessary to have a time limit, say that of 90 days. The government emerged as the worst offenders so far as delays is concerned. Most of them have now issued policy packages for the SIC industries, and hence there is no justification for their insistence on considering each case separately. The committees set up for the purpose are in most cases manned by the overworked officials who are not endowed with requisite experience. Thus, there is no reason to assume that their judgment will be sounded than that of an expert quasi-judicial body like the BIFR. Seems fair that wherever the concessions or reliefs sought from the state governments are covered by their policy packages, their consent should be automatically assumed. The only limitation to this will come to the fore if they object in writing with specific reasons within 30 days of the circulation of the draft scheme. It is only when the reliefs sought go beyond the policy that a longer time limit of 90 days should be allowed. If no reply is received within 90 days, it should be assumed that they are not agreeable and the other measures visualized by the Act should be resorted to. The other major delay occurs in the preparation and submission of the report by the operating agency, which could be either an all India institution or a bank. The delay may occur due to non-cooperation on the part of the management, which has already been taken care of by the BIFR through its orders by fixing the time limits. Where the operating agency is a bank, delay occurs more frequently than all India institutions. This is because many of them do not possess a proper setup for the purpose of preparing rehabilitation schemes. It is suggested that all the notified banks need to create units immediately with its objective in view. In case it is found that revival of the company is an impracticable proportion, by the means of any of the measures contemplated by the Act, steps need to be taken to wind it up under section 21. In this matter, literature has lauded BIFR as it had proceeded with cautious steps. In most cases of winding up, delay is due to state governments who are keen to drag on the matter for political reasons. It appears that imposing of a time limit of 3 months should take care of this problem. Either they should suggest means of revival within that period or withdraw their objection to the company being wound up. But a lack of clarity on exit policy acts as a bottleneck to a logical and fair solution of the problem. Let us now discuss the industrial sickness, a multifaceted problem affecting orderly industrial growth which defies immediate solution. Market succeeds by eliminating the permanently sick firms. However, if the sickness is temporary and the state has already enacted laws to deal with the problem, there are several implementation failures. Even when there are provisions in the law to look after the process towards wounding up a firm which cannot be revived, lack of a clear exit policy acts as a dampener to a smooth process of exit. This is not in tune with the market economy. If we say that we need a market economy with safeguards, then the nature of safeguards and how they will operate should be spelled out clearly. Let us now look at the gainers and the losers at various stages. Beginning from inception of the firm to rehabilitation or winding up of the firm, paradoxically, given our institutional setup, the only section which benefits in all situations are management of enterprises. They gain while starting the business as they bring little own capital and use borrowed money. They gain again by defaulting willfully when they make profit using borrowed money. Now they gain once more while their firms are being rehabilitated with borrowed money, and we do not have data on the results of such rehabilitation attempts. Enterprises came into being using public money provided by depositors and taxpayers through banks and financial institutions loan. While the case of taxpayers receives some attention in the literature on industrial sickness, it is apparent that the case of depositors remain unattended. When a firm with borrowed money falls sick, financing agents loses. In such cases, bank builds up NPAs and development financial institutions face a battle for existence. In India, it is no coincidence that we have rampant problem of industrial sickness along with massive generations of NPA by the public sector banks, leading to their recapitalization again using public money on one hand and exit of the development financial institution on the other hand. It is interesting to note that the workers, laborers benefit only one stage where the firm with borrowed money operates profitably. One needs to wonder whether they deserve the tag of champions of industry. The author is not going to mince words for ruling political parties, controlling government agencies, for the villainous role in the Indian episode of industrial sickness and bleeding the economy for narrow sectorial gains. While we should castigate government institutions which complicate an already complicated problem by moving at snail's pace, and the government itself, as it does put new institutions like an exit policy in place, let us not even excuse instances, even when they may be sporadic, of collusion between management and the trade unions for having defied solution to the problem. Let us now summarize what we have studied in this module. First, there are different concepts of industrial sickness apart from a mere legal concept. Second, the reasons behind sickness may include both internal and external reasons. Third, the major causes behind the industrial sickness appears to be time and cost overruns government policies. Fourth, however, the reasons may be interrelated and the political economy aspect of industrial sickness should not be lost sight of. Fifth, there are severe problems relating to BIFR, a government agency, with regard to rehabilitation of a sick firm. In particular, lack of a clear-cut exit policy is one of them. Sixth, lastly and very significantly, industrial sickness has emerged as a multifaceted problem to orderly industrial growth, defying immediate solution.